Okay, I'm watching YouTube right now for it to come up, so. There's nothing. No. No. Yeah, so where's the link to that? What's the link? Can you please send me the link in the Skype? Yeah, as soon as you go live, it goes out to every single one of your people. Yep. But how are they, if they're not signed into Skype? I mean, if they're not signed into YouTube. Yep. Yep. Okay. Okay. But how are they? If they're not signed into Skype, so they're hearing us. Yeah. I mean, if they're not signed into YouTube. Yep.
For everyone was able to get into the.
Okay. But how are they? If they're not signed into Skype, so they're hearing us. Yeah. I mean.
Did that work? Yes. I'm just going to send a chat out real quick, Miriam, let everybody know that we are here. And to see broadcast. Oh, there's Treva. Hi, Treva. Very good. I'm just doing some final technical tweaks, and we'll be starting in just a few moments. Final technical. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Dream World webinar with Miriam Delicado and myself, Bernard Alvarez. We are very grateful you are able to join us this afternoon. For those of you that are in the U.S., I just want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving weekend and thank you for taking time out. Maybe you needed a little break from being with friends and family and wanted to do some internal growth exploration and gain some spiritual knowledge. In just a moment, I'm going to be welcoming Miriam Delicado to the broadcast, and you will be able to see her. Just so you guys know, the way the webinar is going to work, you will not be able to see us both at once. We are going to be switching camera to camera. Miriam is joining us live from the Vancouver area of Canada, and I am in Roanoke, Virginia. We are asking that everyone please hold your questions to the portion of the program where we are going to take your questions, or we might miss them. And your questions are very important to us during today's webinar. With that said, I just saw my kitty in the window there. Hello, Sophia, in the broadcast. Anyway, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So welcome to the Dream World webinar, everyone. Let me introduce you to Miriam Delicado, and we're going to start off the webinar today with our definition of what is the dream world. So welcome, Miriam. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Bernard. I'm looking forward to being here.
And we're looking forward to you being here. We've been looking forward to you being here, I should say. So Miriam, you and I have been talking about this webinar for several months now. Share with us a little bit on, and we both, well, you kind of came up with the word, the dream world. And the dream world really struck a chord with me, and it strikes a chord with a lot of people. What is the dream world? What can we look forward to in talking about this?
Hello, everyone. The dream world is about an extraordinary part of our lives that is literally connecting aspects of ourselves. And really, that's what the dream world is about. It's actually a very, very important part of life itself here on the planet that people may not realize is there. And we have an amazing opportunity to be able to connect sort of different aspects of self, to be able to reach a broader portion of the universal interconnectedness that we have. So that's really what the dream world is. It's a doorway into further understanding and connection of who we are. That's what the dream world is. And it's very complex, but it's actually beautiful because unlike our world, which is very complicated in order to find answers, when we go into the dream time and the dream world, we can utilize these doorways with great simplicity. Yes. So that's what the dream world.
Absolutely, and of course, add my 2 cents. I find I'd like to fall back on the saying. I believe it's the Australian indigenous. Forgive me, I'm drawing a blank right now. Say the dream world, the Aboriginal people, is the dream world is the real world, and this world is the illusion. And I want to touch on that because that was something that I experienced during my vision quest. My guides that I had met upon my vision quest had told me that very thing. What you're experiencing now is real. That other world is the illusionary world. I guess where the world where ego comes in, confuses us, distracts us. The dream world is more fluid. I believe for me, much work can be done, and we're going to be talking about many aspects of the dream world over the next 2 hours, including. Let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to be talking about. During the next couple hours, we're going to be sharing how we can ask questions and receive answers in the dream world, ET contact, spirit contact, getting lessons from etheric or, I don't want to say extraterrestrial, we already covered that, spiritual beings in the dream world. We're going to discuss a little bit about lucid dreaming. We're going to give you some tips and tricks to help you embrace the dream world, as well as I'm going to be sharing my technique on personal dream interpretation, and we're also going to be discussing universal symbolism in dream interpretation. So, Miriam, where should we start? We have so much to cover. Where would you like to start?
Well, first of all, I'd like to start by thanking everyone for being here. And this is, I apologize because with the two screens working with Bernard, it makes it a bit confusing if he's passing me the screen or he's still talking. So I think I need to, before we even go any further, I need to ask Bernard, how do I know when I'm on screen?
You're not going to see it on the player. If you're watching it through YouTube, Miriam, it's got like a 3 second delay. So everything they're seeing and everything they're hearing is about 3 second delay.
Okay,
So
so
when I
for
just
me,
turn it over to you and say, "Here you go, Miriam," you're on.
okay, thank you. Okay,
Technology.
technology. Have to figure out the little bits and bytes. So let's get started because we're already 13 minutes in. I want to actually start by at the very beginning to talk about the basics of dream world, in going into dream world and protecting yourself as you go into dream world. That's where I'd like to start, and let's do that now. The dream world is the same as doing any kind of a meditation. It is what is required going into and doing, quote, work with the dream world, is that you are conscious of what you're doing, which means that you are consciously thinking that you're going to go into the dream world to do some kind of, let's say, work, ask questions, dream interpretation, healing of some kind, talking to someone, traveling, anything at all. So when you make a conscious decision to do that, you must take precautions and ensure that you are protected. So what I recommend is that you do whatever process that you would normally do when you're doing a meditation. You can ask yourself, surround yourself with light, ensure that you are moving into the dream world with your guides and your helpers and protectors. So again, I bring up this prayer often in any teachings that I do, and I will share the prayer that I do before I go into meditation and also before I go into dream world. So I say, I only allow goodness, truth, love, and light to come to me or through me, for I live my life in the light of God. I ask my guides and protectors to travel with me into the dream world and protect me, only allowing goodness and light to come to me at this time. And I thank my guides and protectors for traveling with me as I enter into the dream world. So in my approach to most things, spiritual and metaphysical, I use a very basic, simple method. I don't use any complex structures in order to reach into the other worlds. It's not necessary for me, and it's not necessary for you. Once we understand that we have to use basic protection and understanding in order to move into that other world. So once you've determined that, then all of these other steps that we're going to talk about will come into play. So I'll pass that back over to you, Bernard, and see how you enter the dream world.
Thank you, Miriam. And before I do that, I want to expand a little bit on what you're talking about, because what I think people might be missing is that when we're talking about the dream world doesn't necessarily mean, or doesn't have to mean, that you're asleep. The dream world could be, the subconscious world, could be the astral realm. Is that about right, Miriam? It could be more than just the when you're asleep part.
Actually, yes, absolutely. There's powerful times. The actually most powerful time for the dream world is before and after, before you go to sleep and just as you wake up. Those are very, very powerful times as well to work with your dreams. So absolutely, I agree with that 100%.
Great, thank you. Again, just a little clarification. And as far as, and like Miriam was sharing how she goes into dream world, I was thinking about, I had to be more mindful last night before I went to bed, because I knew today's seminar was coming on, and I do things out of habit. And for me, before I go to bed and before I go into dream world, now let me give you a little bit of a precursor. Is for some reason in my I don't know, my routine or whatnot of dreaming, I seem to fall asleep and go right into dream world, and then I have a moment where I wake up and I'll fall back asleep, and then I'll go back into dream world. But for some reason, I slip right into dream world. What I'm doing before, when I'm laying in bed, getting ready to fall asleep, I do utilize Reiki techniques. I utilize feeling the Reiki energy moving through me. For those of you that are not familiar, we can just call it chi energy. I visualize light coming down through the top of my head. I feel it moving down my face. I feel it moving down my body, and my entire body just filling up with light. I call that, for those of you that know the work that I do, I call that altering your state of consciousness, raising your vibration, and in that, it's very similar. It actually it's exactly the same thing that you do, Miriam, but I do it uh, through mental process versus a prayer. So both are pretty much the same, but it is an act of bringing the light down, bringing the light into me, where I am feeling protected, and I am moving knowingly. And I think that's the key here, is to knowingly know that you're moving into the dream world.
Absolutely, I think that is the key to understanding what we're doing, is entering into it with being very, very, very clear. I'm trying really hard. Just give me 1 second here, because this video and everything is super distracting, and I'm trying to get access to the questions without having to stick. Yeah, it's the thing. Technology is not my stronger point. Okay, so let's move forward, because I think that everyone on the call, everyone here today probably understands that it is about using basic tools in order to enter into the dream world. So let's first talk about one of the biggest questions that I get asked is about how you can make contact with, quote, extraterrestrials, and how you can make contact with your guides through the dream world. So let's talk about that. This is something that is extremely important and a great benefit to sort of open the doorways to furthering knowledge and getting questions answered in your dream time. This is an amazing tool. So again, using a very simple form, you've asked for protection. You say your gratitude to your guides and your protectors and the creator and creation as you enter into the dream world. And let's say that you want to make contact. You formulate the question very simply and clearly. Tonight, as I enter into dream world, I request that my guides of light, the beings of light, or the extraterrestrials that are positive and will bring me greater knowledge, come to me in the dream world. It's about formulating your question, and this is extremely important when working with the dream time. And that is, the formulation of your question will determine the strength of what you receive in return. Okay? So it is the same with meditation. Always formulate the question as simple as you can. I would like to make contact with my personal guides that are here to teach me, protect me, and guide me. I would like them to come to me in dream time and make contact with me. And I ask that they are very clear that this is who they are, and that I remember them in the morning when I wake. So that is literally how simple it is for you to make contact with your guides. Now, you have to understand that this may take time. You have to continually keep going into your dream time every night and asking to make that contact. And you do it sort of in that meditative state that you go into when you go to sleep. And then just as you're waking up, instead of jumping out of bed, give yourself a moment, lay there. Even if you've opened your eyes, close your eyes again and sort of look within your mind to see if there's something that you remember. So, Bernard, on to you.
Yes, and and I think one of the points that we're trying to make here today is the intention before we go to bed. Having the intention, the clear clarity and focus of what it is that you are expecting in that dream time. Just as Miriam was saying, we are expecting to contact our guides. We are expecting to remember. And what we're doing in that quote unquote meditative state prior to falling asleep. And a lot of people say, "Oh, when I meditate, I fall asleep." Well, this is a good time. It's allowed. This is the time when you can meditate and fall asleep right during your meditation. This is a wonderful way to enter into the dream world. But during that meditation, to make sure that you state your intention and to state the purpose of the work, or well, again, the intention of the work that you want to do during the dream state. Um, so I think that's the point I wanted to make was, yeah, we fall asleep during meditation. This would be the time to fall asleep during meditation. It's a good thing to fall asleep during meditation. Um, Miriam, I wanted to touch on, and I felt that we could create a little more clarity on the types of dreams. Maybe if we all understood the types of dreams that are available to us, that again, Miriam was talking about repeating it, doing it over and over so we get used to it. And as we become more fluent with the type of dream that it is, we'll be able to differentiate what the type of dream is. In other words,
Mm-hmm.
for me, I see dreams as, well, again, I can only share with you my personal experience. For me, my dreams have been about working through past issues that I need to work on. I'll dream about things that have happened to me in the past, or old places that I lived at, or old, friends that perhaps I need to work on. So maybe call that some type of working with my karma, clearing out old karma, resolving old issues. I've had dreams that are prophetic, very, very clearly prophetic, where I wake up and I'm told exactly what's happening was what I was dreaming. As well, I see dreams as an opportunity, like Miriam said, to connect with our guides, to connect with whether it be ETs or spiritual guides. Many times I dream where I'm in a classroom, an outdoor classroom, and there's this Buddhist monk teaching thousands of us. I also see dreams as where I'm getting spiritual downloads, and all this information is being poured into me. So dreams. Oh, and again, then there's also the subconscious. Last night I was watching something about. I don't know. I was watching a TV show, and I ended up dreaming about the TV show. So some of it's just subconscious playtime. You're having playtime. Your brain is just floating around and having a good time. So to be able to differentiate the different types of dreams, I feel is also important. Miriam, what other categories or what can you add to the types of dreams that we have?
Okay, so that's a great question because the types of dreams that are available to us are almost endless. Uh, Dreams are powerful, powerful tools, and we have an opportunity to go into what I call the chaos dream. Okay, so the chaos dream is about going into chaos within the dream itself, and it makes no sense. There's bits and bytes of our personal life, the television show that we watched, something that we've read, our friends, everything is in there. These are dreams that are very difficult to sometimes understand, but it's our brain and our physical brain trying to work something out, or to be able to sort of process the information that's come to us throughout our life or in the day or whatever the case may be. So there's what I call the chaos dreams. And chaos dreams, I don't put a lot of stock into. Usually I don't feel a lot from them when I wake up. So this is one of the determining factors is when you do wake up and you remember a dream, what is the first thing that you, quote, feel? People forget that emotion is a powerful tool to connect to something greater. And I'm not talking about being emotional as in crying and going into hysterics. I'm talking about an emotional response that says that connects to our gut instinct. So we wake up and we say, what did I feel from this dream that I just had? And usually with those chaos dreams, I don't feel anything. There are other dreams that are very realistic in the feel of them. Lots of dreams that I've had in the past with family members, for example, where I'm talking to them or different situations are happening with them, and those are sometimes, as Bernard said, prophetic dreams. So you have to pay attention. If you start to pick up on that dream just as you're waking up, you have to stop, close your eyes, and look at the dream again. So look at the details of the dream. If the details, pick up on as many details as you can, start a journal and write them down, because that's going to help you to be able to tap into them further and get strength from them and understand them more, for sure, because you'll start to see patterns formulating as you start to go into dream world work. So there are very realism within the dream, which can be prophetic. There are other kinds of dreams that are surreal. For example, where you're making contacts with your guides. And often I have found that in these types of situations where you're making contacts with your guides and they're trying to tell you something or teach you something, that the essence of the dream itself is very surreal. It is very light. The colors that you may see are very vibrant, for example, which is the astral world within the dream time. The astral world, one of the best indicators that you are, quote unquote, in the astral world, which means with those beings that are going to speak to you like you and I are speaking here, the determining factor is color. And the colors are going to be very vibrant and very over the top, like pastel colors. That is the astral world. And that usually comes with making contact with, quote, extraterrestrials, and also with guides and protectors in the other world. Now, that kind of rolls into ensuring that you know who you're talking to. And we're going to come back to that point to ensure that when you do enter those worlds, that you know who you're talking to. And we'll touch on that in a few minutes.
Oh, good.
So the other areas of the dream world that you can work in are higher self, which may not have form. It may not be structured like a vision. Dream world doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be dreaming of vision. An important point. Just because we're in the dream world doesn't mean we're going to see something visually. It could be the spiritual essence of ourselves traveling into another area of the dimensional world, the dream world, because it's so multi-layered, and we are only using thought and not actual vision. So often that aspect of the dream world is utilized as we go to sleep and as we wake up. And it is not through vision, but rather through thought. The thought process going into the dream time is utilized by the formulation of the question, by the prayer and meditation that we use to go in, which is about thought. And then we slowly enter into the visionary part of the dream world. It is the same coming out. We see a vision coming out, possibly of what we've dreamt, and then it turns into what we're thinking and the interpretation of it. So you see what I mean? There's two parts to it already. There's the vision and then there's the thought. So those are two parts to dream world. And then those visions and thoughts are in the dream world, and then once they get carried into the physical world, that's when we have to step into the interpretations and what it is that we're doing. So let's say that there's those three aspects, right? In the dream world, you have two parts, the thought and the vision, and in the physical world, those two thought and visions combine, and that's when we have to determine what it is that we want going in and what it is that we've received coming out. Bernard?
Yeah, yeah, very true. And as you're talking about this, I can't help but feel a very important aspect that a lot of people overlook. And for me, that's the physicality of the actual sleeping process. One of the things that many people overlook, we go to bed every night, we go to sleep in the same bed, we go to sleep in the bed in the same position, in the same room, with the same sheets and whatnot. And a lot of people don't realize that sometimes bed placement has something to do with it. The direction of the bed placement. For me, uh, back in my early days when I was trained with a shaman, he said you post your bed toward the west for dreams, and you post a bed to the east for life. And apparently, if I'm not mistaken, it's a very traditional for Native Americans to post their bed facing the east because they want to see the sunrise. And the Egyptian belief it's to the west to move into the dream world, the underworld, or whatnot for change or whatnot. So bed placement is very important. The way the scenario, the vibration of the bedroom where the bed is placed is important. Is it clear? Is it cluttered? Is it clean? Is it comfortable? And one of the things that I just received, and I want to share this with you because it just popped in my head, was a few weeks ago. I was having very disturbing dreams, for lack of a better term. I don't want to say they were nightmares, but perhaps they were dreams that I wasn't ready to look at. Maybe some personal work that I wasn't ready to look at. And I just did an old fashioned saging of the top of my bed, the back of my bed, underneath my bed, and the corners of the bedroom. And all of that disturbed sleep went away, and I've been sleeping like a baby. I was sharing with Miriam. I also recently started doing something called elevated bed therapy. My back was hurting me, and I read somewhere, oh, raise the back of the bed a little bit. I put it on some risers for 6 inches or whatever. And I've got to tell you, my dreams have become more lucid, more clear. Between the saging and the elevated bed risers has made a huge difference. So to also remember how we're sleeping, what we're sleeping on, what direction we're sleeping on, creating the scene is an aspect that many people forget about sometimes. What do you think, Miriam?
Yes. I'm an advocate for I'm a great advocate for the personalization of the spiritual process, regardless of what it is. And I'll repeat that: the personalization of the spiritual process, which means that we have to connect within our sort of our hearts and our physical beings and our thoughts in order to really have strength from what it is that we are tapping into, or whatever tools we are using. And this particular aspect of working within the spiritual realm and working within the dream world, it does come down to what it feels right and what feels good for you. So you don't we're sharing a lot of different little techniques, and what needs to happen is that you need to ask yourself what feels right for you. So, and then use that, and just know that there are some super basics out there, which is all about protecting yourself when you go to sleep with light, the same ways that you do with meditation. And once you have that, it is about your personalization of it for the most part. Now, I also agree that there are certain things that would not be, that I think that are sort of what I call universal, which means they cross every realm of belief structure in the way that we enter into dream world and what works best. There are some really interesting little things, such as not putting your head towards the door of the room, not putting it right at the window of the room that you're in. And if you do have to have your bed right at the window of your home that you're in, or the apartment, then I would suggest that you take some items that you feel are protective of you, and put it in the window, and ask that item to protect you in the dream world, and then that helps to clear the dreams as well. So again, these are basic understanding of dream time, and in order to utilize this fully, you can research so many different types of ways that you can enter into a very powerful connection to that space. So again, there's universal understandings of dream world, and then there's also personalized understanding of dream worlds. And both Bernard and I feel very strongly about this, and we're going to be talking about that as we move forward. I think that I want to talk about how, when you're in the dream world, once you've entered into the dream world, how you can contact your guides and ensure that who you're speaking to is in fact your guide. Okay? There are techniques out there where you can go to sleep holding a rock or an item that is of this world, and then when you enter into the world of dream time, that when you're there, to know whether you're in the dream world or whether in this world, that you look in your hand so that you know, oh, I don't have it in my hand, I'm in the dream world. And then all of a sudden becoming, quote, conscious of being in the dream world. When we become conscious of being in the dream world, it is very, very exciting, because what happens is we then can have a level of control within the dream world. Now, I have had situations where I've been extremely, quote, conscious of being in the dream world, that I'm conscious that there is a being standing in front of me trying to communicate. And I've been conscious on both sides, both positive, feeling good about who I'm speaking with and the conversation and what's happening, and not being comfortable with who it is that's standing in front of me. So in both cases, regardless, remember this: in any dream that you have, you are in control. Now, this is so funny, but a technique that I have used since I was a very small child, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. I've used this technique. If I don't like the dream that I'm in, and I kind of sort of begin to wake up almost a little bit, and I realize I don't like the dream. I don't like what's happening. I want it to change. What do? I move my body and shift the channel. It's like shifting the channel. I don't like this dream. I don't want to be in it. I'm going to move and it's all going to go away and I'm going to start another dream. This is what I think. So again, these are sort of basic little things that we can do to shift what's happening in that dream time. Now, once we become extraordinarily conscious of being within that dream and someone standing in front of us, it's as simple as this: looking at them and saying, "Who are you? Show yourself to me." Because this is where universal law comes in. Once you state that to them and you're in the dream world, they absolutely have to show themselves, their true self, to you. And then you have the right to say, why are you here? Why are you here? What do you want from me? What is it that you're trying to share with me? You can say, I only allow positive energy from you. I do not allow anything negative to come towards me. Again, it's about using the simplicity of language and thought and energy in order to protect yourself within the dream world. Now, I know that this is starting to sound really complicated, and I know that a lot of people say, I can't do all of that. I'm not conscious of my dreams. It starts by slowly understanding that you have the ability to build on this technique, on this amazing tool. Amazing tool. When we enter into the dream world, we are in control, always. We are always in control, and it's quite remarkable, actually, because there are times when I feel like I'm not, and times where I feel like I am. So I'm sharing this because I want you to feel comfortable in knowing that, I'm not in total control of my dreams, but I have an amazing tool that has worked powerfully for me within my personal experience that I am sharing with you in the here and now. So, Bernard, can I ask, pass it back to you about making contact with your guides and demanding to know who they are and ensuring that you're speaking to the right beings in the other world. What are your thoughts on that?
Thank you, Miriam. And actually, that's a very important aspect for me in the work that I'm doing in my dream time. And again, it's. I hate to sound cliche and I hate to repeat what you're saying, but the reality of it is it's true. The power of word in dream time and the power of your consciousness in dream time is universal, and they must reply. And for me, the same thing. I see a guide, I see a teacher, or someone who presents themselves as a guide or a teacher. And quite honestly, we can also tell. How do I say this? And this might go a little bit more complicated. So, when we are in, let's say, in this 3D world and we come in contact with someone, one of the things I teach is your higher self. If we can duplicate that relationship with our higher self in dream time. In other words, how does your body react? How is your central nervous system reacting? The same thing for me applies in my dream world. If I'm not feeling safe, if I'm feeling uncomfortable, I will probably be defensive and say, "Who are you? Tell me what you want. What do you have to offer me?" But I would say, fairly, in my experience, 9 times out of 10, I am feeling something joyful. I am feeling safe. So, and it also, the words and the messages that I'm receiving from that particular guide really go straight to my soul without question. In other words, um, I can feel it's coming from love. I can feel it's coming from a place of light, and to be able to differentiate the two, are we feeling tense? Are we feeling anxiety? Are we feeling unsafe? Really is a red flag for me. So I would have to say that whatever you're using and utilizing in this 3D world, the same rules would apply in the dream world. With that said, speaking about consciousness and being conscious in your dreams, we haven't said the word yet, but we're going to say it now: lucid dreaming, and
Hmm.
that's kind of what Miriam is describing here.
Right.
The lucid dream is where you are in control. You're in the dream. Uh, you're conscious of everything that's happening. You're choosing where you're going. The dream is not carrying you. It could relate to, again, out of body experience. It could relate to connecting with guides. And I love what you said, Miriam, about the idea of holding something in your hand before you go to bed and looking for it in the dream. You can also tell your subconscious mind, when I see a red pony in the dream, I will know I'm conscious and I'm in the dream and I'm awake, and it will remind me that I have control. Lucid dreaming is one of the most beautiful aspects of spiritual consciousness, awareness, and whatnot. When you can participate in a lucid dream, uh, for me personally, I like to fly. The first thing I do is, oh, I'm in a lucid dream. I'm going to fly. And when I start flying, I know that I'm in a lucid dream. Also, there's also what I call dreamscapes. And how many of you have been to the same dreamscape over and over again, whether it be a positive place or a negative place? When I see myself in the same dreamscape that I was in or have been over the last month, over the last few years, or throughout my lifetime, and I recognize that place, that also gives me the ability to know that I am conscious within my dream. I'm returning to some place that either I want to be or that I need to be, and there's work to be done there, or there is a message that is going to be given to me. So also be aware of those quote unquote dreamscapes. Are they familiar to you? Is this something, a place that you've been before? We've all had that dream where, you're having a dream, you wake up, you fall back asleep, you pick up where you left off. That's a great example of that on an individual experiential level. But that also can expand into your whole lifetime, your whole dreamscape, and building that dreamscape. One of the things that I love from my personal teacher back when I wrote my book, he told me, he said, it's very interesting how when people go into a shamanic vision quest, and for me, this all kind of blurs together. It all overlays and overlaps onto each other, whether it be a vision quest, whether it be a dreamscape, or whatnot. But he said that when we go into vision quest, which is something completely different, that there seems to be the same lands that shamans go to, or people that go into vision quest go to, that uh, the landscape looks the same. And I used to kid around with my group back in the 90s and 2000s, that, oh, don't worry, once we get there, I'll know how to move around because I've been there so many times. I'll show you. No, you make a left at that unicorn to head over to the Buddhist monk or whatever, because that dreamscape, it is real. And eventually, it, for lack of a better term, maybe to quote, like, Jungian, or to allude to Jungian super consciousness, it is a collective consciousness. Even the dreamscape can be seen as a collective consciousness, as far as recognizing these different levels and these different realms of consciousness and awareness.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I wanted to just ask everyone that's listening and watching us here, if you had any questions up to this point. I want to sort of open it up,
That's a good
and
idea.
also to let you know that we have a time delay in how many posts will come up right away, because we don't want to miss the questions. So there's a 20-second delay. So if you post once, it's going to take another 20 seconds to post the next question. So make sure that you've typed it completely before it comes up, please. And this particular subject is so important um, for the awakening of our planet, really, because I remember, for example, when I was 9 years old, sitting on my mother's lap, telling her about another part of me. There was another one of Miriam, and whatever this other Miriam did in the other world would affect what happened to me here. and whatever I did would affect the other Miriam in this other world. And of course, I'm talking about the dream world. The dream world is aspects of self that have the ability to travel and go into the astral world, the all the other dimensional worlds. It's so vast. It's just basically endless. And when we travel into this other world, we carry with us what is happening in our daily lives and what it is that our thoughts are. So again, taking your thoughts and concentrating them. Concentrating your thoughts just for a moment before you go to sleep concentrates what's going to happen in your dream time. So if you're having chaos in your life, and you want to be able to answer a question, for example, about what's happening in your physical world and carry that into the dream world to then bring it back, there's ways of doing that as well. So we've talked about some basics for how to contact your guides, which is very simple. We've talked about we've touched on universal versus personal laws that, meanings that can present itself in the dream world. We're going to talk about that more in the next hour. But I just want to make sure we have 9 people watching right now. We've just lost 2. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Because now we're going to get into sort of the heart of the seminar as far.
I don't want to take notes on this part.
Yeah, we're going to get into a little bit more of the detail of what it is that we're doing in the dream world for universal meaning versus personal meaning, and how to figure out whether something is personal or whether it's universal. Do you have any tips on how to remember dreams when you wake up? Mine evaporate almost as soon as I wake up. Jim. Fantastic question, Jim. When I wake up, one of the most important things is, like I said, I jump out of bed, and as soon as I jump out of bed, I forget my dreams. They're gone. So even if I'm halfway sitting up and I remember, something flashes in my mind about a dream, I lay back down and I just take a breath as if I'm going into a meditation, and I look at that flash that was just with me, and I even use my eye movement with my eyes closed to look for the dream. And I say that, what I'm looking for the dream. Show me the dream. Okay? Be very clear. Show me the dream. I'm looking for the dream I had last night. Can I see the dream? Thank you, thank you, thank you. So again, that's one of the ways that I often will be able to tap in and remember the dream. Now, sometimes the dream will come later in the day, and when that happens, stop what you're doing and tell someone else the dream. Tell someone the dream, or else it'll be gone again. Or that's why it's important to start writing it down the second that you wake up, because the second you give attention to what it is that you dreamt, more information will start to come back. So I hope that helps a little bit. Did you want to add something to that before we go to Sam's question?
Yes, actually I do. With that being said, I am going to be sharing my version of how to do dream interpretation. And one of the most important things, let me put my camera on here. Sorry, guys. One of the most important things about that is, when you are writing the dream, is to relive the dream. And what I mean by that, not say, oh, there was this guy walking around and then this thing happened. No, relive it as it's happening, as you're writing it down. I'm walking into this dark building. I open the door. I see this woman with a red scarf. To the left, I see this. And then I feel scared. I. Do it in the I and do it in the present moment. Write it as it's happening presently. And I'm going to get more into that after we answer a few more questions.
That is fantastic. And yes, that's why I was really excited about doing this with Bernard today, because I think between the two of us, we're really going to be sharing some incredible keys to this. And yes, it is about being in the present and allowing yourself to relive it with that emotional state as well, because that helps to bring that information back. Why did you have that dream? What is it in the dream that you're trying to see? And when we get into how to figure out what the meaning of them is, because that's what all of this is leading to, is when we get to the heart of dreams, dream time, and dream world itself. Um, oh, thanks. You're welcome, Jim. Thanks for being here with us. So the next question is from Sam. Hello, Sam. Thanks for being with us here. Any thoughts on dream paralysis and where it falls in the dream categories you've spoken of so far? Chaos dreams, prophetic dreams, astral dreams, or other? Sleep paralysis is a very interesting state. I know that a lot of people have tried to say that, for example, extraterrestrial contact is actually dream paralysis or sleep paralysis. Sorry, sleep paralysis, and that we're having an experience during that time. You know, that's a very challenging question, because I think sleep paralysis happens at different times for different reasons. I know that I've experienced a fair amount of sleep paralysis when I was very young. It happened to me a lot, and what I found was that as we move from one world into the next, it's like watching a movie with a scratch, a disc, an old, a CD disc it's like skipping. You're stuck in the same spot, and you have to kick yourself out of it. So dream paralysis or sleep paralysis are sort of the same thing. When we're just going into the other world, if we can make ourselves aware of it, we can kick ourselves to go either further into the dream or back into being awake. And one of the ways that I did that when I was very young and I was experiencing it so much was I remember doing it when I was about 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, 8, 9, 10. It happened to me a lot during that time. And what I would do is I had to first learn where I was. Okay, so talking about that rock in the hand when you go to sleep, or really realizing I am in the dream world. I need to wake up. And I would say, wake up, open your eyes, wake up, open your eyes, wake up. Or I would say, I am in the dream world. I don't like this dream. I want to change the dream. I want to go somewhere else. Lift and go somewhere else. So again, it's about using the control of your mind in order to get through that sleep paralysis. And it is, there are little pockets of sort of space within the universe itself where we aren't connected to. It's hard to describe. We're always connected to everything, but it's like a place of silence almost. I remember one of the weird things about my sleep paralysis that was always weird is that my hands always felt like each finger was about this big. I don't know why, but I felt like I was a giant. Like I was so heavy that I couldn't move. So I'd have to squeeze myself down to feel smaller in order to kick myself out of that. So it is a very interesting part of the dream world. And I believe, and I cannot say this, I can say this only through my own personal experience, that there was a lot of chaos in my life that I was trying to process at that time. And I believe that part of it was my brain trying to actually rest. It was trying to not travel into dream world. It was trying to not be in this world. It was just trying to be quiet and rest. So, Bernard, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you're making some good points, and you're giving me some aha moments as you're answering that. Because in my own experience with dream paralysis, as I look back after hearing what you just said, there were issues that were rising to the surface that I needed to be there. And I don't like to think that we're not in control, but perhaps it was my path or my higher self saying, you need to be in this state of no control. When I mentioned earlier when I had, what was that, maybe 2 months ago, I was having these very disturbing dreams. One of the side effects of that was dream paralysis, and me, trying to scream out for help and not being able to scream out for help. Um, but it put me in a scenario where I had to face what I didn't want to face. So I kind of look at it as a blessing, even though it's a very fearful way of approaching that blessing, or even a fearful universal kick in the butt of, this is the lesson you have to learn: shut up and listen, or shut up and watch. But again, with that said, after I saged my bed and saged my room, that dream paralysis went away. And, I remember my first dream paralysis, and this is just a personal experience I'm going to share with everybody. I was probably just starting off on this path in my early 20s, and I remember feeling as if someone was strangling me, and having complete dream paralysis, and waking up and seeing someone standing next to my bed strangling me, and then suddenly they disappeared. And again, that was during a transitional process in my life. Now that I'm looking back, it was in a transitional process of my life where I needed to learn to let go, where I needed to let my ego learn to just shut up, get out of the way, and let the experience happen. It's almost as if the more I resisted, the more violent, or the more paralyzed, for lack of a better term, I became, the more terrified I became. It was when I moved into that acceptance, when I moved into that, okay, give up, I give up, and, whatever, kill me, scare me, whatever it is you're going to do to me, that the paralysis went away. And again, moving back here forward to the recent past, uh, knowing that I am in control, and knowing that the simple saging or the simple blessing of the area that I sleep in was going to make a difference. And maybe it was just a reminder. It was to remind me what it is that I needed to do. So uh, maybe, to answer the question, is it a type of dream? It could fall maybe under any one of those categories, but I would feel that the overall theme of dream paralysis, or the overall theme of that, is for us to allow, to accept, and to find a way to allow the lesson to present itself to us.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay. Moving on to our next question from
Yes.
Erica.
Hi, Erica.
Uh, Hi, Erica. Glad you're here.
You found
uh,
us.
um, One of my guides materialized beside me in this waking reality 3 days after I dreamt of him. I have never experienced anything like this before. Are you able to shed more light on this phenomenon? Uh, this kind of an occurrence is actually, I think that it's not as uncommon as what you would think. Because the thing is that let's talk about what the dream world is. When I go into the dream world, I leave this world. An aspect of me leaves this dream world and goes into this other dimensional realm. It's a dimension. It's simple. That's the way to
Yeah,
explain it.
yeah.
Dimensional realm. So a part of me leaves this physical body, or in the sense, there's another part of me that's connected to it. I don't necessarily leave. And I travel into this other dimension. So that means that there's two aspects to me. There's one that's in the dream world, and there's one that's physical. So it's the same thing if something chooses to go from the dream world and partially manifest into this world. There are certain types of beings that have the ability to do that. So one of them is quote unquote extraterrestrials. Extraterrestrials, in you know in some of the extraterrestrials have the ability to go from dimension to dimension, and also to quote unquote materialize into this world to become fairly solid. And I use the word fairly solid, not fully solid, okay? Which means that their base aspect of self is not in this world. Their base aspect of self is somewhere else. Right now, my base aspect of self is in this planet Earth. Understand? Does that make sense? So now, when a being chooses to go from the other world into this world, they can actually do that. Now, I would say, she said, P.S. he was like a transparent or holographic human form when I noticed him in the waking reality. Yes, and that's why, right? He's manifested into this world. So what you will need to do, and we'll be getting into this, Erica. So hold your questions, okay, for a little bit later. But what's going to happen is then you have to look at what was it about the original dream that he chose to manifest? Is there some kind of a lesson, a warning, a prophetic aspect to it, or just there for support? What is it that's happening? And we're going to be talking about the dream interpretation and how to interpret the things that you're experiencing in more detail pretty soon here. Oh, you're very welcome, Sam. Sam said, interesting. Thanks for sharing your insights and experiences, Miriam and Bernard.
Thank you.
Very welcome. We enjoy it. That's so thank you.
I see one more question. Why don't we take Skywalker's question, and then we'll move on to dream interpretation.
Oh, there we are. I knew I missed one. Thank you. Go ahead. So, did you want to start with that one?
No, I think that would be more up your alley.
Okay. Okay, so Skywalker says, what do aliens mean in the dreams? What do they mean in the dream time? So this is a complicated and yet simple answer. Extraterrestrials, who are they? Well, extraterrestrials are no different than human life forms. There are physical extraterrestrials that live on other planets. There are some that travel the universe. There are some that their souls, let's say, are in different dimensional realms. So at times, we very much there's a lot of contact that's taking place all over the planet through the dream world. Absolutely. And this is so important for people to understand. This is one of the most important aspects of extraterrestrial contact that I want people to understand, is that a lot of people will say, "Oh, I'm being taken every night from my body. I'm in on the UFOs and the ships and the craft every night, and I have contact with extraterrestrials." That is not physical contact. That is astral contact, dream world contact. They are similar. They can have very, very, very powerful effects that are almost the same as being in physical contact. But trust me when I say, physical contact is not the same as these astral contacts, because they are very, very, very powerful when they are physically taking place. And it takes years and years and years and years and years to process one physical contact. If you had physical contact every day, you would no longer be human. This is my personal opinion, because you would be changed for the rest of your life. There's just no way that's going to happen. So a lot of people are having astral and dream contact with these extraterrestrials. And one of the reasons why, and I this might freak people out, but I'll share it. I think just a year or so after my physical contact in 1988, that was quite extraordinary, I had very powerful telepathic communication with these beings. And when I had the telepathic communication, they explained something very interesting about the dream world. And they said that they had control over the dream world, that they were the creators of the dream world, that they had the ability to create the dreams that a specific human would have, or they could create universally the dreams that the entire planet would be focused on. Now, they wouldn't be identical, but the theme of the dream would be the same in trying to work things out. So this is very powerful,
Yeah.
because the extraterrestrials come to us often in dream time. Sometimes they appear, quote unquote, as an extraterrestrial standing there, and other times they will look human to us, or they will be an animal, or they will be something else. But there is an extraterrestrial aspect of what's happening there. So the question that Skywalker asks is, what do they mean in our dreams? Well, what the intention of these interactions is, generally speaking, and I can only speak in general terms, because in order for me to answer accurately for an individual, I would have to hear about all of the details of that individual, and not just one experience, but a number of different things that are happening, lots of things, lots of factors held in there. But in general, what's happening is that these extraterrestrials are lifting up the consciousness of the entire human existence of being on the planet through, one of the ways of doing it is through the dream time. And this is extremely important for, I think, humanity to understand, that that's why the dream world is so profound. It's such, I want everyone to utilize their dreams. I would love for everyone to be able to tap into their dream time to strengthen their connection, to have doorways open to absolutely everything that exists, because it's all there in dream world. It's there through our meditations and through accepting of those doorways, but the dream world also has that ability to step into that. So it is really interesting how the extraterrestrials have, they literally proved to me that they had this ability to do this, because they said, in the next few days, I don't know it was like 2 days from now or something, we will send dreams. Everyone will dream about their mothers. And so in 2 days, I asked every single person that I saw, practically, did you dream last night? Yeah. What did you dream? I dreamt about my mother. Every single one of them. Strangers, and it was remarkable. And they didn't just do this to me once. They did it with me twice, and proved to me that they had control over the dream world. Now, why they were doing this with me was because they wanted to take away my doubt as to the reality of the situation that I had experienced with them. So we'll move on. Bernard?
I
Hopefully.
can't help but think about what you're saying about them being able to control the dream world, because what was it, maybe last year, the year before, I kept hearing over and over again, and not only hearing it from other people, I myself was experiencing these post-apocalyptic scenarios and dreams, and I kept hearing from so many people going through the awakening process. Oh, I'm dreaming. I'm in this like post-apocalyptic skyscraper, and we're all running for our lives, and it just seems to be a constant theme in so many people. So, you know, what you're saying is making a lot of sense. So I have to agree with that. For me, um, my I never had physical contact with extraterrestrials. And I interchanged the world extraterrestrial with the word extraterrestrial with transdimensional, because, like Miriam said, they could be
Mhm.
physical beings that live in other realms, or they could be light beings that live in other realms and other dimensions. And for those of you that know, have read my book, my guides are transdimensional, but I do consider them extraterrestrial, as they took me on some type of craft, but it was an out of body experience. And they do visit me in my dreams, and it's usually, I will say that when they are coming to me in my dreams, it is usually for some type of lesson or some type of communication or some kind of reminder. Perhaps it's a nudge that okay, we reminded you why you came to this planet. We reminded you the work you're supposed to be doing on this planet. You know, remember what you're supposed to be here for. So that's just my personal interpretation. So for for many
Absolutely.
people, it can be different experiences and different reasons why they show up in dreams. Miriam.
So moving on, because moving on to the real essence of dreams itself is the interpretation of them.
Yes.
Okay. So now we understand, to review, to say, okay, we have to prepare ourselves when we go to sleep. We do a prayer or find our mantra. We can use a tool to hold on to something as we go to sleep, or look around the room and remember where you are in the physically. Literally, you can just do that if you choose to as well. Do your protection prayer. Thank your guides and protectors to travel with you, and now you're in dream time. So now you're in dream time. Don't be concerned about whether you are astral or interdimensional or um, uh,
Lucid, out of body.
yeah, don't worry about any of those things, because you'll be taken to where you need to be taken to. You don't
Yes.
you can, if you're a master of masters, you can control exactly where you're going to go. But for most of us on the planet, that's not the case. So the universe, the creation, and the creator up here is going to create that for you. So don't worry about that. Just make sure you're protected. Now you're going into the dream world. Now, I'm going to relay an experience that I have. The first thing I think of is whenever it's hard for me, because I've had prophetic dreams about people dying and people being sick and this kind of thing. So, but it was a very powerful, powerful, powerful dream that I had, and I'm going to share it with you. Okay. I woke up from a dream, and it was like a nightmare to me. And I woke up physically shaking and crying, and it was so traumatizing to me that this was the most traumatizing dream I've ever had in my life. Has never happened to me since. Thank you. What happened was, I woke up and it was really powerful, and I looked at the dream and I saw all of the details of the dream. Now, hear this. I saw all the details of the dream. The details were, some of them were very obscure, meaning I didn't really know exactly where I was in the dream, like what city, what town, nothing like that. I didn't necessarily recognize the I didn't recognize the people that were surrounding me. None of the faces looked familiar, but somehow I knew that from this dream that someone in my family was going to die. And I don't know really even how I knew that, but I knew that someone in my family was going to die. And that happened quite a few years ago now, and it was then that I really understood the difference between universal meaning and personal meaning. And I didn't know who it was at that time. That was the first time I had a dream that was so profound about something that was going to happen, that wasn't clear, that I didn't think was clear, but in reality it was, because some of the details in the dream, like let's say, what ended up happening was that my about 3 weeks later or something, I think it was, my brother-in-law passed away. He had a massive heart attack and he died. And the indicator in the dream was that it was going to be a brother, that there was a brother, but I don't have a brother, but he was my brother-in-law. But I knew that it was going to be mother, father, niece, nephew, brother. And even when I said it out loud, I said brother, but you see, it was my brother-in-law. So there was a key in there to show me. Now I had other dreams that were similar, where I saw people in the dream, and I looked around. I went, whoa, I'm in the dream. I'm aware that I'm in the dream, and I look around now and I look for the details in the dream. And one of them, for example, was the carpet in my mother's house. And I looked down and I saw that we were all walking on the carpet in my mother's house. And I went, oh my God, she's going to be sick. And sure enough, she ended up having a stroke. And so I knew that in advance. There's this very specific dream that I have where someone gets sick or they die. It's very sad, but it's true. And it has taught me a great deal about the dream time, unfortunately, and fortunately for me. So what happens is that you're looking for details that relate to your life in dream time. So that means if your partner, in life, your husband, wife, or your children, or your best friend, or someone close to you, is always wearing a bright pink shirt, and you're experiencing a dream that feels close to you, you get that feeling and emotion about it being part of your life, and it seems kind of real, but you're not sure, and you're seeing someone in a pink shirt, it probably relates to that friend or family member that's always in a pink shirt. And then when you're looking at the dream and the details of the dream, you have to look at the craziness of the dream in detail and how it relates to that person in working something out in the details. It is extremely important to understand that when we look up dreams, for example, online, say that you've dreamt of an owl, or you've dreamt of a bear, or you've dreamt of being sitting beside a creek or a river. You can go online and Google it and say, what is the meaning in dreams? But then you have to, if you want to be clear about what dreams are, look at it from your personal life in this moment and say, how does this relate? Does this feel right to me? So water generally represents life. Is the water muddy? It's life. There's something murky going on. If the water is clear, it's a good dream. These kind of things are universal. And that's great. So what does that mean for me now? How does that relate to me? What does that mean? Where does that take it? And the only way, and I have to say this, the only way that you can ever truly understand this is by taking time to start writing out your dreams, by paying attention to what's happening in the dreams, and learning one step at a time. I didn't wake up one day when I was 9 years old and go, wow, I have all of this knowledge about dreams. I've been working with my dream time since I was about 8 years old. At least 8 years old. I've been working with my dream time. I've been learning as I go along. When I was 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, all those years, lots of dreams, prophetic dreams. I had to pay attention, first of all. It's the same with anything spiritually. We have to pay attention. We have to acknowledge it. We have to look at how it relates to our own lives. And then we learn each step of the way for how to be able to move further into the dream world and work with it in a more powerful way. So there's universal meanings, but then we have to look at how it means, what it means for us. So for example, in some cultures and in some dream interpretations, seeing an owl can mean death. In dreams, it means death. But to me, owls don't mean death. That doesn't even feel right to me. But seeing an owl definitely means something about coming out of the darkness. That's what it means to me. It's about coming out and being seen in the world. So for me, it's more like a transformation rather than death. So we have to be careful about what the universal meaning and then personal meaning, and how those can then be combined in order to make the correct interpretation. And some dreams, let me tell you, Some dreams are just pure chaos and your brain trying to figure things out and you have to laugh at them. That's what, again, going back to where the feeling, oh that's just my brain trying to figure something out. Waking up at any point and having that connection to it is very powerful. So in saying this, when you go into the dream time and you want to ask a question for your life, for example, I can go into the dream time and say, please, in the dream time, help me to understand or give me an answer for when I will be moving from this home to my next location. And allow me to remember in the morning. Any question you ask as you enter into the dream time, be sure to say at the end, allow me to remember in the morning. Very powerful. So then you ask your question, and then you will start to, and you keep doing it every single night. Every single night. Now you're going to wake up with a dream and that you're going to remember, and then you have to interpret through the universal, which is like everyone understands that a fire is fire in a dream. The sun is sun. But what does sunlight mean to you when you think of that symbol? The symbol, because you're looking for the symbology. The symbology. My mother's carpet means my mother. Hey, nobody else. It's not going to mean anyone else. That pink shirt means this friend of mine over here. Whenever I think of a pink shirt, I always think of that friend. When I'm having licorice, I'm always going to think of this person over here. Or look for the symbols in the dreams, colors, symbols, people. Look at how it relates to you, and then look for the universal meaning as well. Okay? So I'm gonna say right now already that people can start asking questions about this. I'm gonna pass it on to Bernard, and he's gonna give an even more
a breakdown. I'm going to break it down for everybody.
He's going to break it down, and I'm sure that he's going to give us something, because I want to make sure also that, Bernard, you touch on in this, what you're about to share, techniques for how to clean up karma, because you said you've learned that as well, how we can clean up karma, because we can do that as well in the dream time. And learning to clean up karma in the dream time, when you have an issue with a particular person, you can go into the dream time and work it out with them, and ask to work it out with them in the dream time, and for it to relate back into this world. So that's what I know, working out karma and things with people. And there's a very powerful way of doing that as well, where you ask that person, or that aspect of that person that chooses to talk to you, or their higher self even, to come to you in dream time to speak to you about the matter that you have, and thank them for speaking to you. And then when you wake up in the morning, you'll either remember the dream, or you're going to remember a feeling, and you're just going to have an answer. You're not even going to realize, oh my God, I have the answer to that. I don't even need to ask that question anymore, because it's actually not about the question. It's not about it's not about remembering the dream. It's about actually getting the answer.
The resolution, yeah.
The solution. It doesn't mean you have to remember the dream. So that's how you can use the dream time. You're going to all of a sudden wake up and feel better. You're going to understand something, and then you'll be like, oh, yeah, I guess it worked. So on to you. So please feel free to ask questions at this point about anything that we've talked about already, or about the dream interpretation. So on to you, Bernard. Thanks.
Thank you, Miriam. And for those of you that want to learn, I'm going to be sharing with you the technique that I was trained to do dream interpretation. And yes, I'm going to do a plug here. I do dream interpretations. You can book an appointment with me, but I'm going to teach you how I do it. And let me just start off by saying this is not something that you can do alone. You're going to need someone who is who you consider intuitive, maybe in touch with their higher self or whatnot. And so as I'm explaining this, I need you to understand this is a technique that is done with two people, an interpreter and an interpretee, the person who wants the dream interpreted. So let's start off with the very first step, and I spoke about this earlier. How How do we write down the dream? So let's say that you have this dream that really stuck with you. It was very clear. Maybe it was a very lucid dream. It was a very powerful dream that affected you emotionally, spiritually, maybe even physically. And it just really stuck with you and it's really clear in your mind. Um,
Hmm.
the first step you need to do is what I mentioned earlier. You want to write down that dream in as much detail as possible, reliving the dream, not recalling it. There's a difference between recalling the dream and, like I mentioned it has to do with language. It's not, oh, and then we walked over there and then we walked. No, I am in a barn. I am opening the door of the barn. To the left are five owls. I see my wife in front of me. I see my boss to the right of me. And then they do this. Step by step by step in the present. Not that, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. No. Then I walked down the street and I made a left on Elm Street. Oh, Elm Street, the dream world. Oh Lord, no. But anyway, the reality of it is that we need to be in the present as we write the dream. So step
Hmm.
number one: recall the dream and write it down in present sense as if it's happening to you right now. Once we've done that, you can ask a friend, or if you want to do this to another friend, tell them to write the dream in the present tense, and you can interpret their dream. But once we've done that, you want to get with someone who you trust, a dream interpreter like myself or Miriam or somebody else, a friend of yours who you feel is intuitive, and you're going to read the dream to them again in the present tense. So here you are, you're with your friend that you trust, who's an intuitive, a psychic, whatever you want to call it, someone who's spiritually inclined, who will pick up on subtleties because we're talking about energy. Remember, we're interpreting this dream and how it relates to you and your subconscious. So we want someone that we can trust to dive into our subconscious mind and who can pick up on subtleties of energy, inflection, and the way that we linger on words. Someone who can understand the way that language works. And I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that right now. You've got the dream, you have the person who you trust, so you're reading the dream. Now, person number two, who's going to be, we'll call them the interpreter. You're the dreamee, they're the interpreter. You're going to read the dream to the interpreter. And as you're reading the dream, the interpreter is going to write down words that you either linger on, that you repeat over and over again, that you inflect on. Like, let's say, I was walking down and I saw this yellow car, and this lady, she was so mean. So they would write down yellow, mean. Basically writing down the words that you are emphasizing, that you're subconsciously emphasizing as you're reading the dream aloud. Again, we're working with subtle personal energy and interpretation. So you may not even realize you're saying, bear. You're all excited about the word bear, and they're going to notice. I saw a bear, and he was brown. Again, inflection, lingering, repeated. You want them to write down the words that you're inflecting, that you're repeating. So the interpreter is going to create a list of the words that you've been inflecting on, that you've been repeating, that you've said with excitement, things that struck a chord as you were reading as something that stood out. That's the interpreter's job. Once you've read your written down dream, once you've read the entire dream, again, writing the dream that you said, I'm doing this in present tense, you've read the entire experience in present tense, and the interpreter has written down a list of all the words that you've lingered, expressed, inflected on, were excited about, had body movement. They're going to read those words back to you. So again, we use the words bear, yellow. Let's say we'll use bear, yellow, and barn. They're going to say to you, okay, what does the word bear mean to you? What does a bear mean to you? You might say, well, bears are powerful, bears are strong, bears are brown. And they're going to write down little notes, okay? He's saying bears are brown, bears are this. What does the word barn mean to you? Oh, well, barns remind me of where I grew up. They remind me of my childhood. They remind me of peaceful times. They're going to write childhood, peaceful. so on and so on and so on. So basically, you want them to interpret. You want to interpret the words that stuck out to the interpreter. You're going to expand on that, and then once they finish that, they will read the words back to you, and together. So let's say bear, brown, powerful, this and that. Together, you will both come up with an interpretation. It becomes a discussion at that point. Okay, so you've emphasized powerful, strong, this, that, and you will begin slowly through a discussion back and forth between the interpretee and the interpreter. You guys will create an individualized, personal interpretation of that dream. Does that make any sense? And if you have any questions, please feel free to post them down. What do you think, Miriam? Have you heard of this method?
Well, this is the great thing about working with you, Bernard, is that I think we, the sharing that we do, enhances each other.
Oh, I know. We complement each other. I love it.
I think it's fantastic, and I think that it's great to always, give the different interpretations a little bit, so that people can feel more comfortable in their own interpretation
Yes.
of what they're feeling and doing and how they approach this. What I'm hearing is that we do the same technique. We're using the same technique. What we're doing is when I come out of a dream, if I was dreaming about a barn, for example, barns to me means a couple of things. It actually does mean my childhood.
Mhm.
It means there's a barn that I remember from my childhood where we would get sent down the road to the farmer to get potatoes or carrots. We often were sent to the farmer to get carrots. And I remember walking in the barn, and I would feel this great sense of joy because I loved the smell of the piles and piles and piles of potatoes that were there. And I loved going there. It was one of my favorite things when I was a child. So how would that relate? After I saw that, and I was like, a barn, what does a barn mean to me? Well, it meant my childhood. So it meant something about joy. So if in the dream I was walking towards a barn, I would be walking towards joy.
Yes.
I would be walking towards peace. So that's where the symbolism comes in, okay? If, for example, I saw a current coworker that for example, if I saw a coworker, as you said, standing in another part of the room, and I was looking at them, for me, I would have to analyze. Well, what does this coworker mean to me? Well, it could mean a blockage in my promotion at work. It could mean any number of things, but let's just say that that's what it was. That person represents to me in my physical world, they represent a blockage to me getting a promotion, but yet the barn was there and I was on my way to the barn, you see. So now I'm going to say, you know what, I don't need to worry about this person, because what's coming in my life and what I'm being told is not to worry about that. I walked past that person and I walked to the barn. That means joy and peace.
Yeah.
So everything's going to be okay. So I can quit worrying. So that's one of the ways of interpreting dreams so that we can bring it into our physical world. So let's say you've asked the question as you go into the dream world, and you've asked the question, I asked my guides and protectors, the way I would word it was, I asked my guides and protectors, creator and creation, to give me greater insight into whether or not I will receive my promotion at my job. Please help me to understand this further. Thank you. And then I had that dream. Well, then I'd say, okay, that's great. That means that I can just let it go, because regardless of whether or not I get the promotion, joy is going to be there at the end. So I don't need to be concerned about it. So it gives insight, right? Gives peace of mind. So that's how I work with dreams. I will ask the question and then use the personal symbology, and it is about the inflection. It is about how often, as I'm the greatest way for me personally, I don't write it down, although if I did it, I know it would become a lot more powerful for me. But the way I do it is I usually phone a friend of mine and I explain the dream out loud. There is something that is almost necessary about not only writing it down, but telling it to someone else.
Exactly.
Once we tell that dream to someone else, all sorts of things start to come up. Oh, yeah, I didn't even realize when I was when I woke up, I didn't even realize this other little piece. Maybe you forgot something out, forgot a piece that you didn't write down. And as you're verbalizing it, because you become, as Bernard said, you make it into the present. I was walking down the road, because that's the only way to tell a dream, isn't it?
Yep.
You can't say they were. No, you have to say I. So I agree with him 100% that when you're using that, you're reliving the dream a little bit, and then you're figuring out what it's about. Now, Jennifer has a question here.
Yeah.
I've had a few dreams that were markedly darker, felt totally different. Can dreams be placed by entities that are darker or more trickster-like? And my answer to that is absolutely. There is no question that just because we're talking about the fun light side and how beautiful it is, that there isn't a darker side to this, which is why you have to always say your prayer if you're going to go into dream time to do work, and you're opening yourself up to that. And then when you're there, if you can get used to it and you're fearful, just to always remember, you can look at them and say, who are you? And you can use this terminology in the dream time and end it immediately. And that is, by universal law, I demand you leave me immediately. That's all you have to say. By universal law, I demand that you leave immediately. You have no right to be here. I do not give you permission. You must leave. Go. And they have to. And there is universal law. There are repercussions to beings that don't follow that universal law. You do have free will. So all of those things apply. When we have repetitive dreams, it could be that we have repetitive anxiety about something. It could be that we are constantly trying to be reminded of something or taught something,
Or it's karmic.
Or karmic, right? Many different things can be happening with that. If you're having a repetitive darker dream, you can go into your dream time and say, I am having a dark dream and I refuse to have this any longer. Change the dream to give me a more clear understanding. You see? They're trying to tell you something or give you something or share something with you. And just because it's dark doesn't mean it's evil. So
Yeah.
ask them to give you the message. Okay, this is key. Please give me the message in a different form of a different dream. I thank you. That's it.
Absolutely.
And keep doing. And it's about the repetition. Did you want to add to that before we go to
I want to expand on that because the question to me is in two parts. I've had markedly darker dreams, and can entities, trickster entities, put dark dreams in? I believe that yes, there are trickster entities out there that just want to mess with you and kind of, get you off your base, unground you, and make you feel confused. But again, the idea of darker dreams is not necessarily a bad thing. And Miriam had asked me to talk about karmic. Sometimes those darker dreams, and I say this about every aspect of our life, many times we have what I call emotional blockages within our energy body, or call it our chi, your meridians, whatever. Any Eastern doctor, Reiki master, martial art person is going to tell you that these blockages need to be worked through. And those blockages might be in your emotional body. If we have blockages in the emotional body, or even up to the level of our spiritual body, which I would call them karmic blockages, we're going to experience dark emotions. We're going to be confronted with dark feelings or feelings of fear or sadness, and these need to be worked through because they are energetic blockages. I use the analogy of the awakening and how, let's look at it from a global consciousness level. Globally, we're going through some crazy dark stuff, but the reality of it is that it is a global collective consciousness, and our global collective consciousness needs to let all the ugliness boil up to the surface so we can confront it and be done with it, to karmically remove ourselves from whatever it is that is holding us back. Same thing on an individual level. Sometimes dark dreams are traumatic experience, reminders of experiences that we've not quite healed from. So we also have to be aware that this could be an opportunity for karmic cleansing as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I'm going to go on to the next question. Eddie says, I often dream about celebrities, even if I haven't seen them recently on TV or on social media. Do you have a certain, do they have a certain significance? Well, for me, this is pretty, standard. A lot of people dream about celebrities all the time. And the reason why we do is because it's a great symbol of whatever that particular celebrity represents for you.
Yes, yes.
So they are so instilled into our conscious physical minds that we use them as symbols in the other world. So what needs to happen is you need to look at each one of those celebrities that you're dreaming about and say, what does that person represent to me? And how does that relate to my life? And then from there, then you can have a greater understanding. So example, let me think. Oh
Leonardo
my
DiCaprio.
Okay, thank you. Leonardo DiCaprio represents the healing of the earth, the coming together of people, the protection of the planet, the environment. This is what he represents for me. To others, he might represent a really rich actor who's living high off the hog and going on private jets and this and that. So you have to look at, when you think of that person, what does it mean to me? So that's what he represents. So if he's showing up in my dreams, it means that my focus is at the core level. And I mean core as in soul level, not just spirit, which is the aspect of self that lives here. Soul is the collective of everything that we've experienced, past, present, and future. The spirit is what lives each day, and spirit connects to the soul. Okay? Just throw that out there. Contemplate that for a few minutes. So, we have to look at that's the interpretation that I have of different celebrities. Now, I've also dreamt of some really big celebrities, and I have had like 2 or 3 dreams about a particular one. And for me personally, that means that I'm going to end up talking to them at some point because of the way that the dream unfolded. So again, you have to look at it from a very personal standpoint and be very honest about what you're feeling and seeing, and what thoughts pop into your mind as you're relaying the dream itself. Did you want to add anything to that, Bernard, or should
Yeah,
we go on to the next?
two words pop into my mind: archetypes and patterns. Archetypes. The reality of it is that in today's society, celebrities have been elevated to god status, goddess status. I mean, back in the Greek and the Romans and all that era, the gods and goddesses were the archetypes. They represented some type of collective unconsciousness or consciousness. So today, it's fair to say that celebrities are archetypes. And it goes right back to what Miriam's saying. What archetype do they represent to you? Do they represent to you love, greed, compassion? Whatever it is. And actually, I have to do a shout out to a friend because I did have a dream of a quote unquote celebrity friend of ours, Joe Martino, and it was, for me, it was about courage, and he was representing courage in media, and how the media is so screwed up, and how he's trying to put the truth out there, and that's what I was like, why do I keep dreaming about Joe? And it was during this whole like fake news battle, which is still going on, and I see him as a pioneer of conscious news. But the same thing can be said for what you said, Miriam, in the sense of, does that mean, like for you, you say, well, that means I'm going to meet that person. Well, what are the patterns? For me, everything is about patterns, whether it be in physical life, subconscious life, spiritual life, or the dream world. Patterns one thing I learned very early on in this work is that 2 plus 2 equals 4, 4 plus 4 equals 8. There is always cause and effect. So where does that celebrity fall as an unknown, or something within the numerological unfolding of that cause and effect in your life?
Very, very well said, Bernard. Very well said. Um,
We have two more
okay, so
questions here.
Jim says, what do you think about a reoccurring dream where you have another family, wife, kids? Someone does a spirit drawing of your energy and draws one of the family members looking at you in the drawing. Bernard, I'm
That's
going to put
very
that.
profound.
There. I mean, a lot comes to mind when I'm reading that, Jim. A lot is coming to mind.
Well, I know Jim, so I don't know if I can do this objectively.
Okay, because
But let me just jump out and say that, maybe past life, maybe etheric life, future life.
yes, and that's what I was going to say, is that what I found is that in the dream world, another whole thread of all of this is that because we have access to the other dimensional worlds, what does that mean? It means we have the open doorway to the entire universe, to all of the base knowledge of everything that exists. Everything. That also means a doorway to our soul, our doorway to our past, to our history, to our other lives, to our future lives. Okay? Let's not forget that. So sometimes we can be trying to sort of put into balance past lives with this life. And if you're having a reoccurring dream about family, an entire family, it sounds to me like there's a connection to a past life. That is what I was thinking. But and then someone doing a spirit drawing and draws one of the family members that's looking at you in the drawing, it could mean that the entire spirit family that you're dreaming about are still in spirit, and they did not come. They didn't come into body. That's what comes to my mind right away. So you're welcome, Eddie. Eddie just said thank you.
I think it's Edie.
Edie. Oh, well, I have light in my eyes here. It's kind of hard to read. Sorry, Edie. So what we're saying is, again, it comes to universal symbolism and connection, and then personal symbolism and connection. And whenever we're working with anything that has to do with spirituality and broadening spirituality, meaning the growth of an expansion of knowledge of spirit, knowledge of self, knowledge of creator and creation. That is spirituality to me. Whenever we have this ability to tap into this spirituality and base knowledge and expansion, we have to look at those two things, universal symbolism and personal symbolism. It's the only way to find answers to anything. And once we understand our own, quote, patterning, as Bernard said, the patterning of our own, the way that we pattern it. Hey, the person next to me is going to pattern differently. They're going to pattern differently. And this is one of the things, I will say this, this is one of the things that has made me challenged to my core in this whole genre of alternative media and information and knowledge, especially in the beginning, 30 years ago, when all of this was really coming to the surface in a big, broader way. And people just didn't even understand that, you didn't have to go through, 50 steps in order to have a visionary dream or have an experience. That sometimes the creation just gives people experiences, and others have to work at it. And some have to use this technique, other people have this technique. That is why the world is as diverse as it is. So we only have a few minutes left. I want to make sure that we've answered the questions from the people that are watching. And I'd like to also just say thank you to everyone for being here. And I hope that our program today was and is going to be a benefit to be able to tap into your dream world. And again, I just want to encourage people to understand that it's not difficult. Think of the basics. Think simple. Remember that whenever you ask for something, you add the word now. Because if you're not asking a question, please bring this answer to me now in my dream time. Because otherwise they can give it to you a year from now or 2 years from now. So always put it in the present. Say thank you in advance of getting the answer. Be clear with what you're asking for and be as simple as possible. Because the more complex the question, the more confusing it's going to be for them to give it to you. If you don't like something and you're experiencing something, even with that sleep paralysis, for example, negative dreams, you think that there's negative beings that are around you, demand that they leave. Change the channel. Learn a way to change the channel. I literally change position in my bed when I don't like the dream that I'm having. I ask my guides to come and be with me in the dream time if I'm going to work. And know that if you're not opening the doorway to do this bigger work, don't be concerned about just falling asleep either, because you're always inherently, quote, protected as you go into dream time. You are inherently protected in dream time. So everything that you're doing in dream time does have an effect on your being here, and whatever your being does in this physical world of Earth as a human will affect what happens in the dream time. And this is also how, as Bernard was saying, that there is an ability to kind of sort of clear and clean karma with other people that maybe you're having difficulty in this life with, and ask for them to come to you in dream time. Have a conversation with them as you're falling asleep at night. Envision their mind or their faces or their bodies standing in front of you, and just speak to them in the dream time. And this is a very, very powerful way, but recognize that you are very powerful. So be careful of what you ask for.
Yeah.
Be thoughtful of what you're demanding, and always be thankful, because that will bring that positive energy to you.
Absolutely.
Bernard?
And before we go, and Miriam, I'm going to turn the camera back to you in just a second, but let me just give out a few little tips and tricks, because I did have someone who did write before this show, this
Mm-hmm.
webinar, about not being able to dream. And one of the things
Mm-hmm.
that I personally offer people, at least my experience, is I don't know if you all have heard of like dream sachets or dream pillows. Lavender is a great sachet to have underneath. For those of you that are just who are trying to align, and again, for me, when I think of archetypes, for me they're vibrations. They're not real entities. So when I talk about gods and goddesses in my work and whatnot, for me they're vibrations. They're natural forces. Venus is the vibration of love. Morpheus is the vibration of dreams. So if you would like to, go online, look up for how do I create a Morpheus dream pillow. It'll help with the vibration of allowing dreams to occur, because many people have a difficult time with that. So I just wanted to be able to answer that question before we go. And, just always have a good attitude about your dreams. Always know you're going to remember them. Go to bed with the intention of remembering them. Everything that Miriam just said, you're protected, knowing what you want out of it. And remember to write it down. Dream journals are great. If you're up to writing at 3 o'clock in the morning, a friend of mine, who I think might be in this chat room, uses a voice recorder on their cell phone and just leans over and says, "I just saw this, 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 and this." It's a great tool. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and like
Mm-hmm.
Miriam said, before getting up out of bed, take a moment, review the dream, let it sink into your psyche, and that way you'll have a better way of remembering it if you choose to record on it or write on that. Any last suggestions or tips, Miriam?
Yes, just just to say again that um, you know, I have had other people who have said that they don't dream, and the reality is that everyone
Yeah,
dreams.
you still
You
remember.
can't get out of it. What's happened is that there's a blockage between remembering the dream and being blank when you wake up in the morning. That's all that's happening. So if you're one of those people that's not remembering, uh, you have to go to sleep and say, please allow me to remember my dreams in the morning. I used to, a long time ago, I used to have premonitions in the waking state of massive earthquakes. I would actually get what I call a vision, and a vision for me is something that flashes before my eyes in a waking state. And I used to get visions of earthquakes when I was younger. This is one of the ways that I felt them and saw them and had the premonitions. But I never trusted them. I never trusted that one way that the dream would come. Or I would have a dream about an earthquake. So what I would do is I would go into dream time and ask a question. I had a dream or I had a vision about an earthquake. I please ask with humility to my guides and creator and creation to send me a confirmation dream that this is real and allow me to remember in the morning. And then I would have these confirmation dreams. So I would have these visions, and then I would tell people, and they'd say, "Yeah, but I haven't had my confirmation dream." They'd kind of look at me and say, What are you talking about?" They'd say, "Well, I asked for a confirmation dream." My point is that we have to, again, be very aware of the language that we use with dreams. And if you want to remember, you just simply ask. And to give you encouragement, it's not just in the dream time that we need to do this. It's through meditation, it's through wanting to see a UFO, it's through all sorts of things. The more that we create the mantra in our mind, the thoughts create. Is this not the base of all spirituality? Yes, our thoughts are the creation of everything that is around us. So if we use these thoughts and our words and physically say them out loud, and I didn't actually touch on this, is that you can make things more powerful in a request to go into the dream time and your prayer. And if you want to manifest something, you say it out loud, because what it does is it takes it from your brain, your thoughts, through the physical, makes it physical, and then it can travel into the other worlds, but also into this world. So it becomes very physical. So you're connecting the two of them. So you do your prayer, my prayer. I only allow goodness, truth, love, and light to come to me or through me, for I live my life in the light of God. As I go into dream time in this night, I ask my guides and my protectors to come and be with me in the here and now as I travel into the dream world. And tonight in my dream, I ask for my guides to teach me what it is that I need to know at this time in my life, and to show me what it is that I need to give me strength in this world. I ask this with humility and love and gratitude in the here and now, and I please ask that I be allowed to remember in the morning with gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Thank you. And I send that out. There. Now I'm already done my dream for tonight. So you don't have to actually ask for something. You can say, what does the universe want to tell me? Because sometimes we want something, but what we want and what we need are two different things. But who knows best? Your soul, your guides, your creator. So sometimes don't always ask questions, but allow them to show you what you need. And that, I think, is a level of humility that the creation will share even more with you. So thank you everyone for being here. And the questions were great. I hope that we covered a lot of material, and we'll see you next time. If you are interested in following my work and Bernard Alvarez as well, we both have newsletters that you can sign up for if some of you haven't. And thank you again for being here. And Bernard, thank you for giving us the space to be able to have this event today. And I really appreciate your support of my work, and for doing this with me today. It was a lot of fun. And thanks again.
Thank you, Miriam. And yes, I always enjoy working with you, and I'm very proud to have done. This is our first webinar together, and I hope not our last. So hopefully we'll get together and do some more webinars like these. I just want to thank everybody for watching today. I hope we've given you the opportunity to develop a new relationship with dreams, and I wish you all the best of luck. Continue developing your relationship with your dream. Get to know your dreams and explore, be brave, be courageous, and learn from them. We love everybody. Thank you very much for watching today. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Sorry. Oops. I